When I was told I should do a season retrospective of Unfabulous, I wanted to stick my head in a punch bowl. Little did I know that would be a life-changing experience for me, because Addie Singer really took me on an emotional roller coaster that I don't remember going on in the 2000s. It feels like Nickelodeon's How I Met Your Mother, if it was put into Ned's Declassified. But this is already a long video, so let's jump into the surprises that I got when I opened up a box of Unfabulous. What's up everybody, it's Johnny2000, focusing on 2000s movies, media, and so much more. So the pilot is actually pretty interesting. We get a glimpse in the most important part of the episode, cutting right to a party going on in Addie Singer's house. She's monologuing about her life and being a kid, while her face gets thrown in a punch bowl.
That's me, right there in the punch.
Mind you, this is in the first minute. It does that stereotype where it throws you into the action and are like, this is only days after this happened, and then throws you back. It's like usually a cheesy trope, but I kind of like it here. And it's kind of funny because she says, we need to go back in time, and then goes to her birth by accident. And we learn that she really just wants to be noticed by her crush, Jake Bahari. I remember this when I used to watch this show. Something about this guy was always the goal, which is kind of crazy. Do you think that'll pass the Bechdel test?
This conversation fails the Bechdel test.
And we see Addie in the Singer residence. Her and her brother are not getting along super well, but it's not like they don't like each other. There's just like a weird age gap in maturity. Ben asks her to guess the password in order to get to the bathroom, and she names parts of women, which is crazy for a TeenNick show. Did they really joke about this stuff back then? I feel like I've heard it lightly joked about on iCarly, but they're pretty graphic in this one. And the whole show has kind of like a meme-like energy. Like, not only is there animation, but it jumps to, like, really wacky scenarios in kind of a Scrubs type way, or a Ned's Declassified type of energy. We learn that Addie is going to her first day of 7th grade, ready to reinvent herself after 6th. We see how bad she wants to grow up when she's singing about getting to be in a PG-13 movie, which is kind of relatable.
So what does it mean to be 13? I can go to the movies and see PG-13. Can't see them when you're 12.
And we meet Gina and Zach, which are her best friends. Gina is kind of this daredevil rebel, kind of like an advocate for things, outspoken. And Zach is a doof mixed with a conspiracy theorist, at least for this first episode, because he's mentioned he doesn't trust shoes, which is crazy.
Zach, why aren't you wearing shoes?
Dude, shoes aren't natural. They were just created by those shoe companies for profit. My 10 little piggies are free range.
They're all hyped because there's a guy named Randy that's gonna have a party, and it's their chance to jump into the in crowd. More importantly, talk to Jake Bahari. She's like kind of insecure about whatever went on in 6th grade year because somebody mentions it to her and she has a fantasy of her assaulting them. Oh my gosh. Then we got the wacky principal that comes in on a wheelchair and she essentially body shames the girls. But they're finally at school, like this is where the main hub of the show starts. They make a reference to Britney Spears, which is kind of cool. And we're kind of getting an idea of how the power dynamics work. And this is interesting. On the B-plot, Ben, Addie's brother, is managing a long-distance relationship with his girlfriend, which is a pretty interesting way to start off an entire series, that he's in a relationship of a girl we can't see, and definitely reminds me of video chat era. He can only communicate to her with a webcam, and it's this really 16-bit grainy Mario level quality of a camera. But very accurate for the time. We didn't have the ability to perfectly see each other on video chat in the 2000s. They have a dog named Nancy, and it's funny because Nancy's trying to help Ben make the video. It seems irrelevant, but this actually comes in later. So basically that guy's party, Randy, is canceled.
You're not gonna let a little thing like this keep you from having your party, right?
They're heartbroken, but it's so important that she goes to this party that Addie almost insists her house be used for the party. And for me, I'm like, aren't your parents gonna disagree with that? Like, my parents wouldn't be cool with just throwing a party. But the real issue is the party review team. Apparently, in order to have a party, they have to go through the popular girls with a review process, which is insane, but hilarious. And I'm pretty sure these popular girls are the ones that are popular throughout the whole series, so they're common antagonists. Her and the principal so far are not on Addie's side. They end up like not allowing it to happen until somebody says that her brother's hot, so they should, which is crazy that that's the rules. Addie has a fantasy when she imagines asking her parents and them not responding by locking them in a closet. Gina tells her to just tell parents what you want to hear and you'll get a lot out of life. So Addie does this. She tells her mom that she wants to have a party, and the mom says yes pretty much right away. but Addie's still trying to follow the advice, so she blurts out more stuff like telling her mom that there's gonna be kissing, which is so awkward. They also mention 7 minutes in heaven a lot, and the parents are like, it used to be 11 minutes in heaven, and I'm like, please don't give me more details. The parents can actually see through a webcam while the party's going on, so their mom and dad and then Ben even crawl up in Addie's room to watch the party from upstairs, which is crazy. I don't think we were able to use webcams that easily back then, but it is funny that her mom is that nosy. Even though I don't really know the character traits of the characters, they feel pretty real to me. Oh my gosh, the pizza man even joins eventually. So everybody's just watching this teen party going on, which is kind of creepy when you think about it. But it doesn't really affect the main plot because Jake Bahari is there and Addie is ready. She wears a shirt that literally says social, which is nuts because it's like me wearing a shirt that says short hair. Like, it's just not true, and you're advertising it. And she embarrasses herself by falling into the punch bowl, exactly what we started the episode with. So it's full circle moment. It feels like the end of the world because we've built up this whole expectation that Addie wants a good reputation at school, and this is the most embarrassing thing to happen. And just when it seems bleak, we learn that Jake Bahari actually knows Addie's name. He like addresses her with it. I guess somewhere in the blackout, Addie learned that her parents and brother were spying the whole time, because the episode ends with her saying that her parents and brother are trying to make it up to her, which is crazy because it's their house they let you use the party for, so like why are they the ones paying her back for this? Like, I feel like they have a right to kind of go around their own house. But yeah, pretty strong start. I feel like this pilot is so fast-paced, and the memeability of it all makes it feel pretty relevant. Like, I watched this with no attention issues. It's funny, the characters are really wacky, and the goal of just Addie trying to talk to this guy is simple, but it's like, makes me curious to watch her embarrass herself in the future. And I kind of like that in a comedy. Addie's a lot more unique than the other main characters, like even Tori Vega from Victorious, who goes to an art school, doesn't sing about her life. And Addie always sings about everything she's going through. It's a lot more relatable and grounded. Definitely makes me curious to see where things go from here, so let's keep going. So the second episode of Unfabulous is called The Secret, and it does a really good job at capturing what lies kind of do to people. It reminds me of this episode of Fairly Odd Parents where Timmy realizes that his parents tell a bunch of white lies, which is like small lies that they don't believe would affect the person in the future. And it's funny because it's just been an ever-present thing in our culture where it's like manners are such an important thing that sometimes we put away honesty for it. And while Addie's coming from an interesting perspective in this episode, I feel like she learns a lot. So let's jump into it. Definitely a staple of the 2000s. We start with Addie telling us about all these lies she's been told from her family. And the principal makes an appearance in the cold open, and I love the principal. Like, she's the funniest teacher character in all of TV. In this episode, it also starts at the end of the conflict. So Addie, Gina, and Zach are sitting in the principal's office, drenched in whatever. I don't know what this is, but it's disgusting. And she says, remind me to never speak to them again, which is a crazy start to an episode. Like, I already am pretty invested. Like, this is pretty intense. So we start the episode in the classroom, and the teacher is assigning everybody historical figures that they have to present by the end. Gina stands up in class and just talks back to the teacher, and I guess that's just... I don't remember her being this forward, but it's kind of baller. Apparently, Zach chained himself to a porta potty in order to protest something, which definitely is insight on this character. That's insane.
Yeah, you chained yourself to the porta potty and threw up because the smell of urine was so strong.
As they're walking through the hallways, that Addie realizes that her friends have been lying to her about small things, like how her song was. And I would be genuinely hurt too. Like, lying about the quality of something is actually a big deal. And I mean, Addie's an artist, so I guess she's gonna take it more personally. But it does suck. Like, if my friends told me that they were just hyping me up for no reason, I kind of would be offended. And she takes this as a betrayal, which is kind of why I like the character to begin with. It's like such a big revelation for her that people could actually lie like this, which is fair. Like, it's a part of culture she's pointing out. This kind of breaks her mind, and everything in life is her questioning it, because now she just doesn't trust anything. She gets advice from her brother Ben, and he says that honesty is the way to end a relationship, which is kind of intense advice already.
Addie. Honesty is the key to any relationship.
The mom's entire personality can be explained with her interaction with Addie in this part. Like, She lives and breathes real estate, almost ignoring Addie sometimes, and while she's a really caring mother more than most other shows, it's so funny to see her head always in work. Which is a great contrast to the dad, who always is out at work, but he has major insecurity issues, especially when it comes to his kids. It comes up like more than once. Ben and the dad have a whole side plot. Ben says he doesn't have time for a job this year, but really it's because he doesn't want to work with his dad. We find out that he works at Juice later, which is going to break his father's heart, and the mom is kind of like, oh, well, we should make him more comfortable about this. And I'm like, okay. It's our first foray into Juice, and I'm surprised we weren't there in the pilot. This is where Ben works, and Addie hangs out with her friends casually. She makes a contract for her friends to sign that they will never lie again. And it's funny because they say it's just to protect her feelings. So I wonder how, like, intense Addie's gonna be about this. Like, is she gonna enforce it heavily? Or, I don't know. Like, if my friends told me I had to be honest with them all the time and no matter how rude it was, I don't know what I would do. It's always something you think you want, but really it's about trusting people and what they're willing to consider a lie and not. Like, if you were just hyping me up about my clothes, that's fine. Like, I don't care if you don't tell me the truth about that. But if it's about, like, a major life decision, I care about that. While other people might not. Like, they might want to give you advice. Some people would rather have their friends be honest about their clothes rather than their life decisions. It's all everybody's preference. Next thing you know, Addie, Gina, and Zach sit back to back in Addie's room and try to come clean about all the things they've lied to each other about, even little lies. And it's kind of annoying because Addie admits to a lot of lies, which is like, you're judging them so hard for your lies, but at the same time, you've done so many bad things. And she's admitting it right now. Like, why is she surprised that they're getting this reaction? It, of course, leads to not a good response, and they have to leave. Speaking of lies, it's exactly what Ben's doing, and his mom catches him in the Juice shirt from his laundry and find out that he has to come clean to his dad. This kind of gives Addie a little bit of point of reference to, like, why it's important to be honest. But then we go to the next scene where they're finally ready to present their reports. They're Betsy Ross and Thomas Jefferson, and it's so funny that Addie is Thomas Jefferson. Like, she owns it so well. I learned that she's an Aquarius, and this makes a lot of sense for her. I have, like, an Aquarius cousin, and she's exactly like this, too. When they're doing their presentation, they end up slamming each other. Like, Addie brings up Randy Klein, and they share personal information to the class. Guys, this is a low blow. And the teacher gets into this. This guy's a weirdo for even having this idea. I don't know why it has to happen. The popular girls have, like, a bit of a moment where basically they didn't dress up at all and hired people to because they were playing rich people that would do that, which is, that's kind of a smart move. This all ends up in pies being thrown because Betsy Ross brought them. I guess that's what she's known for. And the whole class is pied, essentially. Addie comes clean and tells the principal, who threw the first pie, and it's definitely a nice gesture. An example of a little white lie being necessary to maintain friendships, and I guess there's, like, a good message behind that. I don't know how I feel about it. When Ben and the dad come clean about how Ben lied, they show the dad is a lot more caring because he came to him and approached him about this. Which just goes to show that, like, when you find out somebody's lying, like, always find the context behind it, like, whether it's to spare somebody's feelings. I feel like intentions are really what matters in this scenario. A surprisingly intricate lesson for a kid's show. Like, this is the kind of plot I definitely would like growing up, because I wanted to know what the social cues were. Addie and all of her friends kind of lost in the long run, as they're at probation for their bad behavior, but they get along, and their friendship's a lot more worth it than the little white lies. It's a sweet ending to an episode. The next episode is called The Picture, and it's about picture day at school. It starts pretty ominously with, like, depressing music and empty school hallways, and Addie's basically in her voiceover saying, nope, this is a normal day at school. It's not a Saturday. It's not anything else. The pressure on these kids to get a good picture is a big deal. Like, when you're young, you don't have a lot of control over things in your life, but you do have control over your appearance. That's why picture day is emphasized here. And you could tell, like, it really matters to them. Especially Gina, because she is a lot bigger into fashion and cares about what she's wearing. And the principal calls her out multiple times for wearing something too skimpy, which is kind of crazy. It's definitely shaming. They basically say that the picture day is going to be moved up, and everybody's like, no way, no, we can't do that, I'm not ready. And they're freaking out about it. Addie's talking about how she never takes a bad picture.
I even made Santa look bad.
But the first shot in this episode is a bad picture of Addie, so I don't know why we're hitting on that. Oh my gosh, and Nico from Sunny with a Chance is in this show. I had no idea. He's like friends with Zach, and that is kind of awesome. I love Sunny with a Chance. There's a lot of side stories about Zach to get an idea of his personality, and apparently one of those moments is that he passed the ball to his mom during a basketball tournament, pretty much knocking her out, which is crazy. Meanwhile, Ben is using AI at the workplace. Yeah, at the Juice, he's using a computer to talk to people, and it's kind of funny because obviously we can do this with ease now, and at that time it was like kind of scary, and it just comes across as boring in retrospect. With Addie being so confident, it gets really pressurous when the popular girls come by and mention that her hair is flat, something that she hadn't considered up until this point, and it actually blows her mind.
It's all flat, especially in pictures.
And she literally shatters onto the floor, which this show has a lot of comedic moments, but this is definitely an example of how wacky they can be. It's such a good representation of, like, the teenage mind. Like, you do exaggerate in that thinking, you know? So Addie goes through all of her old pictures, and now she can't unsee that her hair is quote-unquote flat.
Flat hair, flat hair, flat, 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 flat hair, flat, 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 flat.
Her mom tries to give her a pep talk. She says that everybody has something not perfect about them, and that's, like, totally fair. It's so funny now Addie is, like, mad at everybody for not telling her she had flat hair, and I like this personality trait where she makes rash decisions toward other people because of, like, a feeling she's having. Like, that's totally me. And the life of an artist, if you're playing guitar all the time, like, how do you not be like that? Of course, she sings about the situation, which is not a surprise. And let's jump into the B-plot here. So, it's about Zach on the basketball team. Apparently, they have new outfits, and these ones are embarrassing. The coach doesn't seem to have any empathy for how the kids might feel about wearing this, and they are just off the board embarrassed. He mentions his wife, which is so crazy when we have these adult guest stars come in and randomly give us insight into their lives, and it's always sad. Like, what is with this show? So Addie ends up finding out that there's a guy at school that's able to Photoshop pictures to make people look good. And it's kind of like this underground drug deal because nobody's able to do something like that. And so if you want to get a good picture, you gotta go to the right guy. In exchange for all of her jewelry, Addie is able to meet this guy, and he's just some random 7th grader. It's so funny, he, like, is hyped up so hard for just his ability to take pictures and change the way they look, when really it is a really bad version of Photoshop. Like, it's not even, like, normal how bad this is. We see Addie with cornrows, which is a downright travesty. And of course, she's blown away by this in a good way. I don't know how we thought this was so impressive back in the day, but if she's able to get it to look like her hair isn't flat, she's proud of it. It's always the small details that make you insecure. Zach is asked to go to the coach's car in the gross shorts, and it is so embarrassing. Like, I wish the coach would actually have some sympathy for him here. I like how the whole theme is insecurity, and that Zach's plotline kind of goes into the main one, which is like everybody preparing for this picture. While Addie's celebrating in her room, dancing, having a good time, she ends up accidentally fluffing her hair a little too much, and somehow comes to school with it red too. I don't know how she added more to that issue. We get this funny reference to Annie as she's worried about picture day tomorrow.
And I look like some freak on a Broadway stage. Picture day.
And she's dressed in a full-on Annie costume, which, by the way, Annie's hair wasn't literally red like this. It was, like, supposed to be ginger. This is not ginger, this is full-on red. Of course, we get Nancy in the scene, which is adorable. The punishment for not having a picture in the yearbook is putting a haiku where it should be. So Addie has like a nightmare that her grandmother will look at her dresser and see only a haiku. The plotline with Ben using AI is actually useful here. So Addie wants to skip school, so she uses the computer voice to call the principal saying she won't be there that morning. And it's so crazy that a teacher could be fooled by this. Like, how in the world would somebody think this was an actual person on the other line? Like, Ben, you could at least like disguise your voice and do it. So Addie ditches school, and next thing you know, everybody ditched school and is corralled up at Juice. Turns out people were all too embarrassed to get their picture taken. She even runs into Jake Bahari, and we get a little moment with the two. Aw, it's kind of sweet. He gives her a compliment, and it's actually really nice, so it makes her feel better about herself. Normally, I would say, like, oh, of course, the guy's approval comes in, and then that makes them feel better, but I feel like this is done in a more genuine way, where it's like her realizing that everybody has flaws, and maybe this one person breaking through to her that it's not as big a deal as she thinks, and that we're not all about looks, we're about personality. Like, there's so much to life than just looks. So they end up going in for the picture day and actually feeling confident about themselves, despite the fact they know they have flaws, which is a great message. It's like, focus on the positives about yourself. And she gets her picture taken with the wig. The next episode is called Book Club, episode number 4, and it's actually more about Addie and her mom. I'm not really one to speak on the relationships of mothers and daughters, but I know a lot of girls and I hear a lot of stories. All I know is it's complicated. It's very complicated. And in this episode, we have like a little bit of a growing pain issue where Addie has to keep going with her mom to this mother-daughter book club, which, by the way, I've never heard existing. And it's so boring. Like, they have the other people talking about the book and just being a little pretentious about it. The mom's not even in on the way they talk about it, so you could tell it's just about the mom enjoying her time with her daughter. Addie keeps trying to find excuses to get away with this, like calling Gina for an emergency, which I don't know if you guys did that when you were little, but I definitely did that to get out of a family convention. I love seeing it in a 2000s show because it just reminds me of what we used to do to like get out of things we didn't want to do. I really like the mom so far in the series. Like, not only is she funny and a little bit satirical, but she's really good at balancing sarcasm and also genuine care. I also like how in the last episode we were talking about Addie being insecure about her hair being flat, and the next episode she like curls it a lot more. Like, that's really interesting to me. I don't know if that's like her genuinely trying to get over that or what. The B plot mirrors the A plot in a really good way because it's mother and daughter with Addie, and now it's Ben with father and son. They've had a lot of issues before, like the dad seems very insecure that his son's growing up, and even more so now because Ben wants to drive his mom's car, not his dad's. It's all about a cool thing, and he wants to look good for the girls.
Girls dig guys that can drive stick.
But yeah, Addie takes this so seriously. She's worried that if her mom finds out she doesn't want to do book club, that her heart will break. And it's really funny because we get a moment in the hospital with the doctor and her dying. It's like, whoa, that's intense, Addie. It reminds me of Scrubs a little bit, maybe because of the medical aspect, but Scrubs did so many cutaways in a comedic sense, and so that's definitely what I'm getting out of this. Addie is really imminent on going to this cool hangout spot that Gina also wants to go to. It's called The Point, and it's definitely one of those druggy places, but they just assume it's where older kids go to hang out. And it sounds dangerous as it is. Of course, it's gonna take place on book club night, so Addie's going to either have to tell her mom the truth or lie. And guess what she does? Yeah, we're halfway through the episode. She lies.
Huh? Lie, lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, lie. Lie, 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 lie.
When she lies to her mom in this, we get the funniest bit of, like, they're talking casually, and Nancy, like, runs to clean herself up. And not just, like, normal, like, you see a dog bed, and then a hose, and then, like, she comes back all clean, and it's just so funny. I can't believe they found a way to make this work with the dog. But yeah, so Gina and Addie get asked to go to The Point. They make plans to do it, but her mom actually catches her in the act, like, being at Juice. She wasn't gonna study. So she confronts her, and her mom are in a fight now. This does not help because Addie really wants to go to The Point. They have this cool cut to the parents in bed and then Addie and Ben on the couch. And it reminds me of that 70s show. They used to do talking heads, like they would talk and then they would cut to one another. And it's really cool seeing the parental perspective and the kid perspective in this because this is definitely how kids and adults communicate. Like, they're both insecure, they both are trying to do a good job, and they both care about each other. Addie has this whole breakout sequence, and it goes on for way too long. She dresses up in all black with soot on her face, and I take this as indication that she's planning on escaping, which she does. When her mom is doing yoga, I guess she sneaks out the back door, which is not a super elusive way to get by her. And so her and Gina finally get to go to The Point, and of course it's nothing like they expected because teenagers suck. The older they get, the more annoying they can become. And yeah, so they think they're about to have the time of their lives, lives when really the guy who drove them there ditches them and they just stand in this empty parking lot. Addie builds up the courage to call her mom and actually talk to her about this, get her to pick her up, which is definitely a moment of humility for her, like realizing you did something wrong and needing your mom to come through for you despite the consequences. Speaking of consequences, the Ben and dad thing goes on way longer than you would expect. Like, Ben's dad lies to him about knowing how to drive its stick shift because his son thinks it's a cool car and doesn't want to learn from his mom. So he finds this, like, shady guy to teach him lessons, and turns out he doesn't know a thing about it. He's so bad at it. So then when he and Ben actually go out to test the mom's car, Ben admits it's way too hard to drive a stick, so then the dad has to come in place. And we're like, oh no, poor dad. He admits that he did not know how to drive the stick shift either. Which I'm wondering, how did you even get to this point? Like, they're stopped by a bunch of cars because they were driving, and if somebody wasn't driving even a little bit, they wouldn't end up here. But they come clean and have a little bit of a moment, and I find this a lot sweeter than I remember it being. I feel like the parents are very authentically portrayed in this, when I thought this was just a show about middle schoolers. It's definitely cool insight into how it goes. When her and her mom finally get to talk, they both apologize, which is great. Like, I love it when relationships are all about one person apologizes, then the other person. Like, it never should really be a one-way street, because there's always two people in a miscommunication. How does Ben and his dad get out of it? Yeah, they get towed, which is kind of nuts to me. Like, that's so expensive. The mom gets over book club pretty much, talks to Addie about it, and then they kind of like come to terms that like they're not more alike than they think. Like, sometimes they just don't want to do things that you're supposed to do. Like, the mom didn't even want to go to book club, and she's realizing that too. So it's like almost like she's going to Addie's level to tell her that she is just on the same page as her. And I really find this sweet. Like, it takes a lot for a parent to come and apologize to their child, especially with all the modesty and pride that goes into it. You know, like, seeing how flawed the dad could be, I'm looking forward to an episode about him and Addie, like, one-on-one, because I want to see how they interact. Overall, this was a really fun one. I can't believe how morally centered all these episodes are on. Like, they do such a good job at, like, showing multiple angles of the same situation, and then having, like, a clear out for each situation. So let's keep going. Okay, season 1, episode 5 of Unfabulous is called The Pal. And this is where things take a pretty interesting turn. We start the cold open with a cop arriving at the singer's house, and the dad and Ben are just perplexed. Cuts to present day, and a janitor is trying to paint graffiti off the wall. But it's not just any wall, this is like a wall of reputations. Addie, Gina, and Zach come to look at it like it's a mural. Apparently they have a lot of social rules written on here, like if two people are meant to be, they would be written on this wall, kind of giving this new era of significance to it. Kind of like how Facebook and social media served after we got technology. And I love how the principal is like driving by every now and then because she knows the students are doing it, she just can't get them in trouble, which I don't know why. But yeah, Addie basically vows that she and Jake Bahari are gonna be on that wall, which, good luck, Addie. I bet. So Addie's at the juice place, and Ben is being an annoying older brother, saying that he's just trying to work like his mother, okay? Addie ends up playing on the video game machine they have there, which is, I guess, a parody of Pac-Man or something, and Jake Bahari, the heartthrob and soul of this show, comes up to see what she's up to. He even challenges her to a game. So the two actually share a moment. They play a little bit of Pac-Man or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or whatever I decide it will be because I'm the audience. And they have a little flirtation going. Good for Addie. Of course, she's like never actually shy, so like it's not an issue that she's not talking to him. It's just an issue that she doesn't know how to connect with him. But with her mom there to pick her and Ben up, she actually has to leave pretty quickly. But she's in a good mood. She finally got to talk to him. We see that the B-plot is about her mother having a realtor ad on the park bench, but it turns out to be on the bottom, like where people sit. And she's really angry. We see a fiery side of Sue. She even yells at somebody later, but we're not there yet. So in art class, Addie actually tells Gina and Zach about her magical interaction, but Gina kind of explains why it's not a good idea to have this kind of relationship with him, because she's gonna get titled as the friend, the best friend zone. Thus, the title of the episode being The Pal. It's interesting because she does have a point, and she uses a lot of social cues to kind of come up with this thesis that if a guy and a girl get too comfortable, they would eliminate the idea of actually being together in a romantic relationship. So when Addie can't find her name with Jake Bahari's on the wall, she assumes that she's stuck in the friend zone. The popular girls come by and kind of feed her anxiety. But Gina comes in and saves the day. She gives her this magazine that's kind of a questionnaire to see if she really is a pal. And then we get this funny montage of her trying to follow the questionnaire. And of course, Jake Bahari dodges the right decision at all turns, which it's not fair if you're testing somebody without their knowledge. Like, clearly you're not going to get the results you want. And if you ask me, the way they interact doesn't seem completely platonic. If anything, she's kind of diverting their relationship by hitting on other people to get him to react, which is definitely not helpful. And then she expects him to pay for her, but Jake Bahari is like, her brother works here, he could just pay for it, and that's just kind of rude, Jake. But yeah, she accepts defeat after that. Then we got that classic sitcom trope where two people are going through their own problems and kind of talk over each other, coming to the same realization. That's what Addie and her mom do, where she's basically like, I need to do something about that park bench. And Addie is like, I need to change my entire wardrobe. So she dresses up like a cartoon character, like a Bratz doll, I would say, and goes to Juice. She waits for Jake, and then he doesn't show up, so she has a montage where she imagines she's there forever, and definitely an unfair fat joke. I don't like the fat jokes of the 2000s. The part where she's flipping her hair to get his attention is so funny.
Is something wrong with your neck?
It reminds me of the promos that they used to put up on TeenNick. Like, I remember that sling noise that it makes when she's doing it was one of the promos. So then she follows her own instincts on how to make it non-platonic. Then in the B-plot, Ben admits that he started the graffiti wall, and that maybe something like that is what his mother needs to get over this ad bench thing. And that's kind of crazy that he was the one who did that whole gossip thing. Like, it's kind of funny, but I didn't realize it was that short. Like, 2 years it's been up. And then we get Addie singing about her woes once again, and Jake Bahari calls. He kind of calls her out for being odd, and she realizes that she was being odd. This definitely hypes her up for a little bit, and then we get the actual reason why the cops show up at the door. It doesn't have anything to do with Addie's plotline, but the mom's. Turns out she tried to do exactly what Ben did, create this anti-graffiti wall and erase her face. In the end, they go back to the wall one more time, and Addie notices that her initials and Jake are on the wall. Therefore, maybe she did something right. Maybe they are together. But then we get a glimpse into other people looking at those initials and interpreting them like completely different. Like, oh, this is obviously this person and this person. It just shows like that social rules are so based on the individual that you can't possibly have a one-size-fits-all moment when it comes to this. I was pleasantly surprised with the device of the wall, and I really hope it comes back another time throughout the series, because it is very interesting to me. Okay, the next episode is Season 1, Episode 6, The Rep. This is easily one of my favorites this season, mainly because the cold open took me by surprise. It's Addie kind of being grateful for her friends and her life. Zach makes a little reference to not wanting to support capitalistic companies, which is always relevant. But she contrasts it pretty quickly by showing us where she was by Friday morning, and it's her and Maris in pink girl clothes. Walking by is Gina and Cranberry as the AV squad. So everything is flipped on its head by Friday, and the episode is kind of going backwards, figuring out how we got there. It's just such a drastic change that it makes me really interested in to see what happens for this. We find out pretty quickly that this is Mr. Ward's fault. He is doing a social experiment where he assigns groups to different cliques. I guess the rep is a play on the reputation. Everybody's optimistic at first until they get their cards. Then it's kind of identity crisis alert. Zach gets a CEO, which is funny because it goes right against his comment he just made about supporting capitalism. Gina gets told she's an AV geek, which is funny because she's always trying to maintain her girly-like personality, and geek is like very opposite of that. And Addie gets popular, which is wacky. TV shows can get so ridiculous with concepts like this. Like Victorious is known for doing it more than anybody, where the teacher gives them a social experiment in which everybody kind of has to go through with, and I just don't think that's really how school works. There's like no way for teachers to actually monitor what's going on outside of school. Like, you could literally ask them to do a project or report, but like, you really can't ask them to hang out with different people. I mean, if they did, I would have had so much social anxiety growing up. In this instance, they hired this kid to be the hall monitor.
Be very afraid.
And this kid reminds me a lot of the Life with Derek kid, but he's pretty unique as a character. Like, his whole thing is that a teacher's pet, being kind of a jerk, but also still upholding all the rules of the school, which is such a really random character quirk. It's so funny because Cranberry has such an emotionally violent reaction to this, like, I can't imagine. Everybody's pretty resistant until Addie starts seeing the perks of what it's like to be popular. Marisol shows her locker, and it is double in size. Dang. There is, like, no way you could actually get away with that, right? Unless you, like, paid the janitor to reconstruct the whole thing, which... oh, maybe she did. The kid comes back again and is really good at enforcing the social rules. Like, he sees Addie and Gina talking and he's like, you guys are not in the same clique, therefore you are not allowed to talk. And that's kind of how I always wondered if high school would be like. Even the grouchy principal likes Addie, so it's almost like she's adjusting to this new role pretty quickly. By the end of the day, when it's time to hit juice, Addie doesn't even want to hang out with Gina anymore. So I don't know why they're taking this assignment so personally, but I'm not here for it. Addie takes all the divaness to her home, and her parents think she's a nut job. This is one of the few plot lines I feel like so far that have not been about specifically Jake Bahari. It's more about like your own identity, middle school, all these different cliques, and he has not been mentioned once thus far. But seeing the differences with their friends reminds me a lot of growing up myself. Like, when some of us went to drama clubs, some of us went to robotics, like, everybody would kind of go to their own clique and be kind of a part of that. As somebody who jumped to do multiple things, I almost found it harder to be involved in one. People, like, want you to be the same mind when you go toward what you're doing. It's like a cliquey thing of human nature to follow some set of rules, and it almost like we do it naturally. I mean, the director of the episode clearly gave a fashion choice for each of the characters. Like, the AV club is a lot more red, the popular girls are pink, and Zach is in a suit. So it plays on that premise, copying an identity. And I don't know why, I feel like I would be Maris's friend. I feel like this is a lot of fun doing yoga in between classes. The B-plot is not that interesting. It's basically Ben gets sick, so the mom takes care of him. And then the mom gets sick, so the dad takes care of them. And when Addie gets a moment to take care of them, she just ditches them to hang out with Maris, which is so funny.
Hold your breath and don't make eye contact. Come on, quick.
And then we get a moment where Addie and Maris are trying to hang out in their room, almost as if they've taken the assignment so seriously that they've translated to real life, they've become friends. But then Maris kind of makes a judgment call on Addie about Gina, kind of trashing her, and Addie realizes what being popular is really about for her. Like, the things that she wants to connect with people are all nasty and focused on more material-like things, as opposed to morals and standing your ground. Like, it's a lot of disrespect. Addie takes one or two different strikes, but she turns everything around when she gets a little bit of insight on who this girl's friend was growing up. The girl that's a part of the peer leaders with pigtails and glasses, turns out she was her friend way back when, but then Maris left her to be a part of the popular group. It then occurs to Addie that your reputation is kind of what you choose, and you're in control of your own destiny. Whether you're assigned to a clique or not, it's about how you present yourself in a way that feels authentic to you. And it definitely makes her realize that she had her right group all along. She sends a little apology present, and it's sweet. She gets to sing about how lonely she is without them. And she's sick too, which actually is kind of fair. You know, your whole family was sick and you didn't take care of them. Gina and Zach show up and they all have this really nice bonding moment. And it reminds me that Unfabulous is more than just, like, this romance show. In a way that Zoe 101 does, that's kind of obnoxious. Like, they focus on PCA, but it's not necessarily the main plot point. It's more about Chase and Zoe's relationship. And here it feels more glued to friendship and relying on people, because it's like her and Jake Bahari don't have a lot of scenes together, so you really have to work around it. And yeah, so otherwise, that was a really cool episode. The social experiment episode works really well in a 2000s Nick show that takes itself seriously, as opposed to an iCarly or Victorious episode where it's just an outlandish challenge that everybody has to deal with. Another point for this show, like, having this be the first time I watched this, I feel like we had so much potential with tween TV. Not only did we dig deep into the morals that kids dealt with, but we did it in a kind of fun way. Like, the narration reminds me a lot of Sex and the City, that HBO show that kind of talks about women that grow up in New York. Like, this is more so the middle school kids finding your identity before you even get an identity, you know? We get a lot more of that in Pink Guitar, the next episode, episode 7. So in this one, it's all about Addie's desire to be noticed, fame, and it's a little bit deeper than Jake Bahari, because while the episode's not really about him, you kind of get a picture of how much she yearns for the thing she wants. Not only is she super fantastical, where she's imagining a whole world where everything goes perfect, but she also writes songs about it. She tries to tap into her creative side and take control of her life. And this episode was really fun in doing that. It kind of reminded me of the last one where we talk about Addie's place in the culture. The cold open immediately takes us on the dark journey of nightmare fuel as Addie is in juice where nobody can hear her and everybody's walking in slow motion. Some people are dressed as a clown. Her family's there, Nancy's there, and even Jake Bahari's in the background. It's definitely what I have nightmares about for sure. And Ben is calling her name, but she can't get to him. Oof. And that's when we get into what it's really about, being noticed, being famous. She writes songs, and not for nothing, like she wants to have a voice in this world. But I feel like some of the ways she describes it is basic respect. She's like, if you were famous, you wouldn't have to turn off the lights. And it's like, wait, what? Who turns off the lights for you, Addie?
If you were famous, your mother wouldn't turn off the lights when you were still in the basement. Mom!
One night, the three are hanging out at Zach's house, and it's cool because we actually get a glimpse into his family, not really seen them before. And the fame conversation is taken a step further when we learn that Zach was actually a child actor. Really? None of you guys have that in common? Just kidding. But yeah, Zach was one of the commercial actors on TV, and Addie and Gina have a field day with it. Gina's more focused on the fact that he didn't keep the money he earned, and he donated it, which I don't believe that. Kid, I would talk to your parents, make sure that money was safe. So this all gets Addie interested in doing something that actually would get her recognized, which is definitely a smart plan, Addie. She finds an ad on the bulletin board at Juice, and some of these are hilarious, like they make references to Lord of the Rings, which is crazy. Turns out there's an all-girl band that is looking for a guitar player, and I wonder who plays guitar. Finally, Addie's interests come in handy in a plot line. There's a reference in here to P. Diddy when we get Zach's plot line, which is kind of wacky. Zach's more so embarrassed, and this kid is like, I'm gonna tell everybody you were a child star, which, an embarrassment blackmail episode, great. Addie ends up going to the audition, and she finds 3 preppy Catholic school girls, which I can't believe we built a world like that. This is all in preparation for an open mic night going on at Juice, so just remember that, because that's what we're working toward. They immediately accept Addie as a part of their group, and she is excited. But these girls are acting really weird. Like, they just copy after one another. They're so peppy. And why would they give her the spot on the spot, you know? When they end up going to rehearse at Addie's house, they find out that Ben is there, and they gush over him. I can't believe I never realized how much everybody praises Ben. Like, he's not one of those toxic older brothers that bullies the kid. He's more like that famous kid that the one main character is trying to outshine. We learn pretty quickly that it's all about looks with these girls, because not only are they crushing on her brother, but they probably just hired Addie because she looks good in pink. They bring a choreographer to Addie's house, and they learn what they're going to be performing. It is the most cringe, cutesy Hello Kitty dance that I don't even know how to describe. These girls essentially prioritize looks and attitude instead of talent.
We haven't even played any music yet.
Silly. We don't actually play our instruments.
Addie finds herself not really relating to the girls as much as she wanted to. Gina and Zach are good friends here because they actually talk to her about how come they're not actually listening to your ideas, your songs, your music. And even meeting them, they kind of are snarky. So if Addie's gonna keep hanging out with them and they're gonna be disrespectful, like, it's not really a fun scenario. But hey, if you were in the 2000s and actually wanted to do a project that wasn't like school related, but creatively driven, like whether you wanted to make a video or write a story with friends or something, it's all creative based things. So it's fun to watch how people deal with each other when they have creative differences. It's a very vulnerable thing to work in a group with people that you have to critique and also having no adults helping you supervise this. Like, Addie doesn't know how to explain that she doesn't fit in with these girls. Like, they all like music, they all get along, why are they not a part of the same clique? The mom kind of gives her advice, but not as quick as Ben. Ben looks like a therapist. Finally, at the show, we get a little performance with Addie and the 3 Catholic schoolgirls. They're in their super pink attire, and the parents are even there to see this. They do the really cringe performance, and I remembered this song pretty quickly. I don't even remember watching this episode or this show, but I do remember hearing this song in my head growing up. I must have, like, walked by somebody watching it or noticed it, but I definitely feel this on repeat in my mind. The moral of the story is that fame isn't what it's all cracked up to be. We kind of learn that with Zach and the class pet kid, as he's embarrassed and everybody knows him for the wrong reasons. And it's almost like the motto is you want to be famous for being authentically yourself, not trying to do something other people want you to do. And Addie felt like if she were to jump into this, it would be inauthentic and not actually work in her favor, which I'm glad she came to her senses. I'm glad she actually worked this out. And I'm really upset I have to hear this song in my brain for the rest of my life. Overall, this episode was a lot of fun. I feel like only being halfway through the series, we have time to grow a little bit more. So let's get on to the next episode. So the next episode is the 66th day. And this is one of the big turning points for Unfabulous. I can't believe how good this show is at continuity. So the 66th day is the 66th day that Addie has known Jake Bahari. It starts off with this really funny Brady Bunch parody. We get a glimpse in not only Addie's life, but a bunch of people at the school, like Maris and Cranberry. We see Randy Klein for a moment, which this guy's always talked about.
You just said Randy Klein.
Always mentioned.
Randy Klein had a water skiing accident.
Never seen.
Randy Klein, is that you?
And then Mario, who is Zach's basketball friend, also is in this. The whole premise of this episode is to see that Addie made a decision that somehow affects everybody in her community for the worst. It starts on such an ordinary day, day 65. You know what's crazy? There's more than one reference to specifically P. Diddy in this show, which does not age super well. It's just funny to think that the writers were so involved in pop culture that they specifically referenced that guy. The principal uses it as a way of describing Gina because she does not like what she wears, so she's essentially like, you're dressing up like P. Diddy's backup dancers, which is really inappropriate. I do not want to hear a critique like that on my clothes from my principal. Sorry. So the B plot is that Zach is making a movie, and apparently he's made movies in the past, like with Addie's dog Nancy. Oh, and it's really funny because we see Nancy dressed as Godzilla, which is crazy. Addie finishes another song about Jake Bahari, her big crush that we just cannot forget about because that's all that goes on in her life. She makes songs about him, that we know.
Jake, 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 J-A-K-E, Bahari.
But this time is when it actually gets complicated. We learn that Addie puts all of her love songs on one CD, and it's specifically 66 songs about Jake Bahari. She wrote a song every day since she liked him. And it's really, I want to say quirky and funny, but it's actually kind of scary and stalkery now that I'm looking back on it. I mean, I guess we didn't have social media, so instead of being stalkery, it's more like imagining what you could do to spend time with somebody. But I don't know, it's still hard to defend. So Addie accidentally lost her CD when she gave it to Zach, and apparently Zach gave it to somebody else. So Addie is on this mission to retrieve this tape she's got. She has like this fear that Maris and Cranberry probably found it and then went to the principal to play it over the loudspeaker, which is a fair assumption. It takes Addie all the way to the basketball game where she actually interrupts practice, which why are they practicing in the middle of a school day? Like, is that really fair? This can't be gym class. I like seeing Mario. He's one of my favorite side characters, probably because he was in Sunny with a Chance. In the meantime, Gina is actually making up for having ditched detention, and she ends up going to the principal's office and actually stealing her permanent records. It starts to make her insecure and realize that people are watching her a little too closely, which I would too. Then there's this whole bit where there's peer counseling at this school. One of the girls that runs it, it kind of reminds me of like a peer leader type extracurricular.
Mary Fairy, peer counselor. Let's talk.
I'm not sure if you guys had that, but it's like basically people that volunteer to show you around school, give you help and advice. And in this scenario, they make it a lot like a Catholic confessional, which is funny. Like, you have Randy Klein at the other end of this confessional, and it looks nuts. Then we start to see Addie actually get in people's way and hurt them, so we actually understand why in the cold open they're all angry at her. A girl comes up to Gina, and she's like, oh, it's Carlita, and then she's like, it's Dawn, actually. And I'm like, how did you get the name that wrong? Addie chases down her CD all the way to the janitor. So Gina is having this identity crisis where she is told she's insecure. Meanwhile, she's also hosting this raffle. While Gina is trying to figure out her identity, she gets this boost from Eli.
I didn't want to say anything because I kind of like watching you suffer. But if I have to see you in another dog sweater, I may go blind.
Which you expect to just be this suck up to the principal. He follows her around everywhere he goes, which is such a funny trope that I don't feel like I've seen in any kid show. Like, this kid that is actually kind of borderline cool, but he's all around the principal all the time.
Tweet, tweet.
The plots collide when they're doing the raffle, and it turns out the prize that Gina's giving away is the 66 songs that Addie found on tape. And who is the winner? Yeah, literally Jake Bahari. So this guy that she's fawning over this entire show, he's the one who gets this tape. Jake, I would go to the police if I got 66 songs based off specifically my name, especially the way Addie does it. It's kind of scary. She has this fantasy where he actually loves it and he wants to be with her because of it, which I feel like it's kind of romantic. I do feel like that's a good turn of events for the stalker situation. And it's very sweet because it's like, oh, we're so happy that Addie actually is getting exactly what she wants, what we've established since the beginning of the show. But it really turns out to be an introduction to Jake Bahari's girlfriend. Yeah, so Jake Bahari has a girlfriend. We only find out now for the first time. I don't know how Addie didn't know. And I feel like that's not really fair for her. She made so many songs before she found out. Like, in those 66 days, she couldn't have figured out that he had a girlfriend. Come on. But yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking, and the song she sings for it is really depressing. The entire episode ends on such a somber, depressing note. It's a really good song, though. She sings You Will Never Love Me, and I gotta be honest, guys, I'm gonna hear this during my nightmares.
Jake Bahari, Jake Bahari.
Next, we have episode 9. It's called The List of Kiss, and this episode is definitely taking me back to a part of middle school I really didn't like. Like, the thing about middle school is there's these expectations of, like, your relationships kind of define what's going on in your life. Like, how far you've gone with your friends, with the extracurriculars you're attending. And Addie Singer is no special case. In the cold open, we literally see Addie wish that Jake Bahari and his girlfriend would break up, because we just had a whole episode of her confessing her love, potentially getting a response from Jake that shows that he likes her back, but they can't be together because he's in a relationship. Yeah. And the list of Kiss ends up going over some of the biggest pressures that you face in middle school. The expectations you put on yourself that you have between you and other people about what you should be doing at what age. Addie has yet to have her first kiss. And she just found out that Jake Bahari has a girlfriend, so she's like, wow, maybe I'll never get a first kiss. So she starts to, like, not take it super seriously. Yeah, everybody's talking about how they had their first kisses, and even this 10-year-old girl that's attending their school is like, yeah, Addie, I had my first kiss. And so she's essentially like, everybody had their first kiss except for me. And it's definitely something we all struggled with. Like, you don't want to be the last person to do something, but Addie is so focused on trying to get on the list of kissed just for the sake of being on it. Addie convinces herself that she might potentially like Eli. Therefore, she's like, okay, I'll just kiss him. After a bunch of trial and error and, like, deciding who she thinks she should kiss, she ends up going on a date with Eli. And she is essentially feeling a lot of pressure. Eli seems to have a crush on her. And she's very well aware that she just wants to be with Eli to get her first kiss. And it's kind of depressing. Like, I don't know if I ever had a relationship where I was like, no, I just want to have the relationship just to have one. But she's kind of doing that in this episode. She's almost falling out after realizing that the guy she's liked so long is with somebody else. So she's like, okay, I have to settle. She doesn't realize her self-worth here. And we all do it at that age. Isn't that crazy that we were just so insecure to do all that at that time? The most fun I've had in this episode, though, is when Eli walks Addie home and then does a whole dance number confessing his love for her. And it's really sweet because it's like they don't give him auto-tune, they just genuinely have this kid sing, and it's coming from the heart. Addie realizes how wrong it is to just be with somebody just to go through the motions or to get a kiss. And Eli admits that he didn't like her that way either. It's just two kids sharing a genuine connection with each other. You don't have to be in a relationship. Sometimes you just want to get to know somebody. And these two are not compatible in a relationship. I'm glad that both of them kind of come to terms with that. And there's no forced anything with them. Yeah, inevitably, they don't end up together, and that's good because Addie didn't want it in the first place. She was just trying to get herself to want it. And Gina wasn't super helpful in this episode. She definitely made her think that she had to have this. We get this whole motif of like a fairy tale ending, which is exactly the kind of fantasy that this thing is the victim of, with this storybook that opens and closes at the beginning and end of the episode. It's actually kind of sweet. Seeing where Addie just left off in the 66th day is kind of sad, like singing "You Will Never Love Me" and then trying to figure out her identity outside of a relationship. It's a really cool character development moment for her. Seeing how she comes into her own is very sweet. So the next episode is called The B Word. I think we're all thinking the same thing here. With an episode called The B Word, how in the world would it not be the curse word? The point is, this episode's called The B Word. Sounds inappropriate because obviously that's a curse word. We learn pretty quickly that it's a lot more about girl code.
Addie's Mind, how may I help you? The girl code file? Certainly.
And the B word is boyfriend.
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 Now, Gina's gone out with a lot of guys, but in all the time I've known her, I've never, ever heard her refer to a single one of them as her
Boyfriend.
Yeah, so this was an interesting episode because we don't see Gina with a boyfriend until now. The cold open is a lot more about establishing Gina and Addie's friendship, and it's actually kind of beautiful how well communicative they are, how much they're willing to call each other.
Now, in all the years I've known Gina, she's never not picked up her cell phone. And I mean never.
Hey, Addie. What's up? Just hanging out.
And how close they are. Like, it takes a lot of work to sustain and care about a person like that. So it definitely keeps me on their side. I like seeing Gina and Addie getting along. Which is why this episode gets so dire so quickly, because Addie lets us know that they end up in a fight. So let's figure out how that happens. The episode starts pretty quickly with, right after the cold open, Addie's like, "Where have you been, Gina?" And she says she's been flaky because she has a boyfriend. And Addie's like, this is a big deal. She's never had a boyfriend. She's had crushes, she's had relationships, but not like a full-on boyfriend. And she is panicking. The fantasy of her being with a bunch of different guys is so funny to me. I like that they actually treat this like it's normal, like you don't look down on a girl for having communication with so many different guys. Like, I feel like that could easily be strung in the wrong direction, but it's fair. It's like you're in middle school. You're just trying to find yourself, you know? Addie is like freaking out, and Gina's whole thing this episode is like, you're gonna meet him, but just don't freak out. And she doesn't tell him who this guy is. I'm like, come on. Let me know who he is. She's building up so much tension for Addie because just constantly not telling her who the boy is, but telling her she's gonna freak out, that is not fair. That's like asking me not to have anxiety when I'm walking through the halls in middle school. So Addie ends up meeting this guy, and she does not like who it is. And his name's Chad. I don't know if you guys remember Chad. He was in the other episode. Basically, when Addie and Gina went to the point, this guy took them there and ditched them, and his name was Chad, and now she's dating him. Which for me, yeah, ditching me at the point is definitely a romantic gesture. I would start dating anybody who did that. That's sarcasm, by the way, guys. I think that's a really weird character to connect us to. And this whole episode is kind of about her maintaining trust with Gina. And Gina keeps bringing up girl code and all these rules that they kind of have implied because they're both girls. And that's an interesting concept. I feel like at the time we took things that seriously, but it does bother me that everybody's like, no, we all know what this is. We all know the rules. It's like, no, you have to talk about it. You have to have conversations. You have to talk about your expectations. Like, that's just, you can't just assume that of other people. In the B plot, it's actually kind of interesting. The coach is apparently getting therapy and has to do charity work. So he makes Zach and the rest of the crew be in wheelchairs to do a tournament with the disabled. And everybody on the team is like, why would we have to do that? And it's all because of this one coach's insecurity, which I kind of find funny. Like, why is it brought to that level? That is so inappropriate. And this coach has a really sad life. Like, every time he talks about his personal life, it seems really depressing. It's cool because this plot has been done before, and it's so specific. Like, to have wheelchair basketball be the plot of two central teen shows, like Sweet Life of Zach and Cody did this, and they also touched upon the concept of looking at people differently because they have a different circumstance than you. And in this case, it's people that don't have the ability to walk anymore. And Zach is going to have to sit in their shoes, literally. This team ends up being like a bunch of jerks that really don't hold back. And the coach is essentially like, treat them nice, like treat them well because they are in a wheelchair. Like they need to be treated like that. And Zach is essentially like, okay, but they're kind of disrespectful to us. So what do I do? Then we go back to Addie, and her and Gina are on kind of rocky waters because Gina knows that she doesn't like him. Addie calls her to apologize, and they make up pretty quickly, which is really sweet. Like, from this moment on, they do maintain their friendship, and I find that sweet. Like, you could have just had them not be friends the whole episode, but they actually come back together pretty quickly. Addie learns that the guy Gina's dating just happens to have a reputation for dating 5 girls at once, which how in the world does he get away with that? 5 girls at once? Like, do they go to all different schools? I just don't understand how that can possibly work. We get a lot of cutaway fantasies with Addie trying to understand where Gina is coming from. Like, she's so focused on trying to protect Gina's feelings, not disapprove of Chad, and their whole relationship is on the line because of it. I like that they keep going to her fantasy where it's like her in this like office and she's looking for the file of girl code to try to understand it. It's nice that we have like a main character that is insecure that she doesn't understand the rules and the complications it comes with. For me, social rules are a big construct, so the fact that there's a show that's like delving into something like this is pretty cool. I like seeing Addie struggle with this. I definitely relate to her, as my own mind is an office, and so many people are not being promoted. But yeah, it's a cute way to kind of highlight the anxieties that you would have in middle school. Zach ends up winning the basketball tournament, and the coach is furious, basically being like, why didn't you just let them win? Which is like, coach, you didn't tell us we should do that. Everybody in this episode has an expectation that is not communicated verbally, and they just expect the other person to know. Come on. At least Gina is very patient with it, though. Addie tries sincerely to like Chad, but obviously it's hard. It's hard when you hear rumors about him. She confronts Gina about it because she's like, I would want somebody to do this to me, so please let me tell you this, which I really admire. Like, it's really hard to come clean to your friend about something really honest that's going on in your life, or something honest you think about their life that you want to express concern for, you know? And the idea of having your best friend start dating somebody else and then seeing them less and less is a very real thing, especially in middle school. When Addie comes to her with the truth, she tells her straight up, like, thank you so much for caring and listening to me. And Addie and her end up on such a stronger note than they even were at the beginning of the episode, despite the episode being called the B word. I was worried that somebody called somebody the B word and that's what the episode would be about, but I'm glad it's not like that. I am still surprised the wheelchair basketball was so commonplace. Like, was everybody doing that at that age? It's not that it's rare, but it is, like, specifically scripted. You know, like, why are we scripting it? Oh, but the end of the basketball plotline is that the team actually respects Zach and his crew a lot more because of the fact they went hard on him. Everybody apparently has let their team win before because they saw that they're disabled and are tired of that. That's honestly probably why he is so disrespectful during the game, because he's like, if everybody's just going to keep being nice to me, I'm just going to retort back with anger. And Zach kind of sees that, and he treats him like everybody else, which is the moral of the story. Like, treat everybody equally, and you will get the same amount of respect back. So I really like the message in this. I like that the whole episode themes around miscommunications, expectations, social rules, like, they have such a unique point of view when they're expressing this on Unfabulous. So then we get to episode 11, and it's called The Little Sister. This trope, I feel like, is pretty overdone, but when I watched it, I was like, yeah, I guess I can't think of the last show I remembered that covered this. Like, it's called The Little Sister, and it's pretty much about Addie living in Ben's shadow. You guys know Ben, he is the brother of Addie, and apparently in this show, he is a super big overachiever. Everybody knows who he is. He's in every part of the yearbook, and Addie is just known as that guy's sister. It's a very real thing to be compared to a sibling, especially if you go to the same school. Being compared to one another, it sucks because it's like you really want your personality to stand out. And it's nice to relate to Addie in the sense that it's like not being noticed and like how that drives you to insist on making a change for yourself. And I've never seen her so angry than I did in this episode. Like, it's like her family life bleeds into her school life, when it's usually her school life is taking her on adventures outside of school. We really get the perspective of a little sister feeling like she's living in the shadow of her brother, and she's like singing about it on the guitar, strumming hard, and screaming about her misfortune with this. It's cool that it's about Ben, but he doesn't have like a major role in it. It's more about Addie's issue with herself, trying to stand up on her own without Ben. And it's interesting because every time they have a conversation, it doesn't really push the action, but seeing him react to her, like he's definitely trying to care, you know? Usually an older brother is disrespectful, he's teasing, but this is an older brother that kind of cares, you know, like he feels bad for her when he finds out that she didn't win class president. Oh, that's another thing. She's trying to be class president just to be up to par with her brother. She doesn't make it because she's not her brother. Obviously, she's trying to figure out what to do about it. But more on him. I feel like it's nice to have an older brother that is more caring. So Addie's first instinct is to try to find a new hobby that he has not done before. One of those is the school paper. All while this is going on, the principal has lost her favorite sweatshirt and is questioning every student in the building, with Eli right by her side. They're trying to figure out how her jacket got away. She's so dramatic too.
People are nice.
What are you hiding?
Nothing.
She makes everybody in school empty their lockers to find it. And usually that would be like a drug raid thing. That would be like somebody in the school is loaded with dangerous items. So we have to scour every locker.
Okay, Principal Brandywine has been spending way too many hours watching Law & Order.
And it's cool because it becomes more of like an advocate type situation where Addie looks at this as like her mistreating the students. She writes an article about the principal unfairly using her power to try to torture these kids. And it's true, that is kind of what they're doing. So the head of the newspaper loves Addie's story, and she's finally excited. Like, she put all of her hard work into that. But this girl's like, no, we can't publish this. Everything gets approved through the principal. Why would we out her like that? Which is totally fair.
What do you mean you can't run it? I need this article! Do you understand me, Barry?
Addie ends up sneaking into the newspaper room just to put her article back in the paper, which is a baller move. The principal is not having it though. She calls her into the office and she is threatening expulsion for her. Eli is trying to get her to go easy on it, and it's very clear that Eli is the one who took the sweatshirt! Oh my gosh, so this guy following around the principal the whole time is actually a backstabber. Interesting. I do think it's like sweet the reason he hid it from her. Apparently it's for her own health, and dude, you should be going to class more often.
Perhaps it would be best if you took this opportunity to start walking on your own.
Walking? Why would I do that?
The end of the episode has Addie actually getting recognition for her hard work, which is very thoughtful. And then by the end, somebody goes up to Ben and is like, aren't you Addie Singer's older brother? Giving his identity an issue. And he's like, oh, I worked so hard to get this reputation. Well, you know, he doesn't sound like that, but you'd get what I'm saying. The thing I really like about this whole principal interaction is like, I had this exact one-on-one with my principal in high school. I created this show called Producing Problems, and it was about the video production program and like kind of how we broke the rules using the rules of video production. It was more in the era where you take a camera and you record video. You don't just have your phone and create skits. Like, we did have phones and we did create skits, but like it was more so a career path if you were willing to do it. And the first season of Producing Problems actually like aired weekly at our school, and kids would tune in every Friday morning to watch a new episode. We had about 10 the first year, and I wrote them and they were funny. When it came time to do the second season, and I was in my junior year, I wanted to do that again. I wanted to put on a new episode of Producing Problems every Friday for the whole second season. But the new principal we had at the time thought my show was inappropriate, wrong, and that we were essentially trashing the school because of the plots we were using. Which is weird because it was like kind of like anti-bullying. The show couldn't curse. Everything had to be approved by like one teacher or two teachers. Like, it had to be approved in order to even be filmed. It was a school educational setting, so like my jokes were pretty tame. and I don't really think I could have put out something that was inappropriate. We had a back to school night, and she had the teachers actually scrub the whole school of this show, said not to promote it, not to put it out anywhere, and I was definitely like in Addie's position where I was very much like, oh, I need to stand up for myself. I need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Yeah, that I want to say I overcame that, but I didn't. Sometimes you just get given a restriction that doesn't necessarily make sense to you, but you kind of have to learn to deal with it. And especially in middle school, like when you're growing up, you have to learn to accept those limitations and that you can't always get what you want just because you work really hard for it, which is a really sad fact of life, but I've learned that, like, sometimes you just gotta work harder to find something that does work. Yeah, anyway, that was a long tangent, but let's move on to the next episode. Season 1, Episode 12, The Partner. And this one is really surprising because I did not expect an Addie and Zach episode. Like, Zach has always been on this show. He's been proven to be, like, the quirky character that kind of has the one-off jokes. He's a part of the basketball team, and he has a little bit of a selfish side. He tends to act, like, out of the need for himself sometimes, and that's kind of what happens in this episode. The whole premise is that they're going to have a science fair, and Addie is worried because she's a jinx. Every time they had a science fair, she had somehow messed up really bad. Like, one of her projects caught on fire, one of them, like, melted. It's giving me, like, iCarly vibes in the sense that, remember when every time Spencer would have, like, an experiment, it would just get caught on fire spontaneously? Like, that is so funny to me because just the fact that it's getting caught on fire every time, like, it makes me want that to happen in this episode. Like, I wish the same thing happened to Addie. There's a shot right before the opening number where everybody runs away from Addie, and it's very clearly put in reverse. Nobody wants to be partners with Addie, but she is going to fail the science fair. I didn't realize people took science projects this seriously in middle school. Like, if my friend wanted to be my partner, I would do it. I don't know why everybody's so insistent on winning this. We get another reference to Randy Klein getting hurt and not being able to be Zach's partner anymore. So Zach is the only person that Addie could be partners with, and he's using excuse by excuse to not be her partner. Meanwhile, we have this nerd couple that come back constantly, and they're really funny and eccentric, not like a stereotypical nerd. They're definitely, like, really confident with each other and, like, have their status at school. And this kid is basically like, you should love the person you enter the science fair with. And it's like, what? This is too serious. So yeah, Addie spends most of the episode trying to convince her friend Zach to be on her team. Like, hey, like, this is just a science fair, please be on my team. He ends up ditching her for Mario, you know, the kid on her basketball team. And the principal runs over Addie's foot in this section, which is kind of disrespectful. Sometimes you think that, like, the principal has a nice side, but she doesn't really do anything for the benefit of the students. And it's kind of annoying because she's more comedic relief. And I don't feel like any principal in this scenario would still have their job if they were doing things like that. So the nerd couple actually breaks up because of scientific disagreements, which leaves Addie an opportunity to actually have a partner. So she gets this guy as her partner. She really needs to win the science fair now, and he's like, yeah, I could definitely help you win. But really, he's just using her to get his girlfriend jealous, and it's so funny. We see a moment of Jake Bahari and his girlfriend getting their project together, and they are just such a bad couple. Her and Addie and Jake have a little bit of a moment together, but we've kind of put him on the sidelines. Like, a lot of these plots didn't need to have to do with him since the 66th day, which is also why that plot was so vital to everything. I don't know why Gina is also dodging being her friend. Like, she could also be her partner. Mario ends up walking out on Zach for a science fair project. Suddenly, we don't feel bad for Zach because he's about to get his comeuppance. Like, he treated Addie kind of rude for not wanting to be her partner, and then suddenly he's ditched. Yeah, I'm not feeling bad. But then Addie gets screwed again when the nerd couple gets back together and she is left with nothing. She notices that Zach is in danger and actually needs help with the science project. Instead of kind of like showing off and being like, screw you for not being my partner, she ends up standing in and helping him with his project, which is actually kind of sweet. Like, she didn't need to do that. That was definitely a good character growth moment where Zach mistreated her the whole episode. She showed him an act of kindness, and it kind of ended up being a little bit bittersweet, and their friendship is actually stronger because of it. And I like it when they have, like, male and female relationships in middle school that aren't necessarily based on relationship or anything. Like, they're two friends genuinely trying to be there for each other. And unlike her relationship with Gina, this needs a lot more work. In order to make a connection with people, like, you have to do a considerable amount of effort to understand them. The further you are from them, like gender, sex, culture, like, you have to work a little bit harder to understand. And I feel like they definitely do that in this episode, with the common ground that, like, it's the science fair. They both have the same goal of wanting to do a good job. And even though Zach kind of ditches her, she's willing to put a little bit more effort so that they understand each other. The B plot in this isn't super interesting. It's like all about the dad giving the mom her birthday present. So the dad apparently is a horrible gift giver. So he gets Addie's mom this really ugly fish-shaped cookie jar. It definitely gives me the vibes of the Hannah Montana episode where Miley got a really ugly sweatshirt from her dad, but had to make it look like it was cool. Yeah, so the mom is trying to make it look like this present is not super embarrassing. We get a little bit of flashbacks when we see other gifts she's gotten from him, and it's really funny. The mom genuinely tries to get rid of it, and it's like, come on. It just shows that even adults, like, care about sparing each other's feelings sometimes. It reminds me of that one episode where Addie got mad at people for telling a white lie, when really it's like, that happens all the time in daily life. I like that we got a scene with Jake Bahari, which is kind of cool. We're definitely working towards something here. And everything comes to a final head when we get to episode 13, the Bar Mitzvah. Oh, so yeah, season finale of Unfabulous is called the Bar Mitzvah. And a lot more happens in this episode than I ever could have predicted. Like, we introduced a lot of fun topics, like Addie's relationship with Jake Bahari, we have Gina's relationship with Chad, and then we have Zach trying to just, I don't know, do whatever it is Zach does. He doesn't have that much of a plot. And all of that kind of gets addressed in this episode. It's actually talking a lot about Randy Klein.
Randy Klein? Has anyone seen Randy Klein? Randy Klein?
The guy who keeps getting into multiple accidents, the guy who's mentioned a lot but not ever seen. It kind of reminds me of Degrassi, The Next Generation. If you guys seen that show, they talk a lot about Heather Sinclair. It's this character that we never see because she's so popular that she doesn't even come into lives of the main characters.
Heather Sinclair, Heather Sinclair's, Heather Sinclair's.
Heather Sinclair?
Sorry, I'm with Heather.
That's kind of who Randy Klein is for this. In the episode, we start the cold open with Randy Klein's Bar Mitzvah. It's this really big event that's going to culminate in life-changing events, and I am hooked immediately. I know this episode's going to be intense because we have Addie and Gina stuck in the bathroom for the whole thing. And it's more of like a how did we get here situation. The whole episode is about Addie getting braces for the first time, which is something super relevant for a middle schooler. Like, I feel like most of us had to do that at some point. I didn't, and that's why my teeth are kind of messed up, but you know, whatever. If your parents can afford it, you have to get braces. Sorry. It's a very genuine insecurity when you have to go into school with your physical image altered a lot. Like, it gives you a lot of identity issues. You don't want to be seen as the person with braces if you've never had them before. I know these concerns seem very surface, and it's very much like, well, obviously, just care and love yourself. It's like, but that's something people worried about. You know, like, I gave myself a bad haircut once, and I thought I was going to die going to school the next day. My hair was half my identity, okay, guys? Yeah, Addie has horrible fantasies about what people are gonna do or treat her like once she gets these braces, and it kind of comes true. Like, she gets them and then suddenly she doesn't want to go out anymore. She doesn't want to see anybody, and it's kind of depressing. Gina wants her to come with her to Randy Klein's party, but she doesn't want to because she will literally be so embarrassed. Ben is apparently going to be working this party, which I thought was kind of weird. And we talk about the theme of the party constantly. It is a bar mitzvah themed around Indiana Jones, which who could have predicted that? I did not think that would happen. The parents have to go too because they like Randy Klein's parents and sold him a house, so they have to save face. And meanwhile, Addie is stuck going to this party in the most embarrassing form she could ever have taken. Like, she is so insecure right now, so the fact that she has to go to this huge party is kind of a big deal. It definitely reminds me of the pilot when she also attended a party, and you just show the stakes are so much higher when you're in middle school. Your image really does matter. You do not have a lot of stuff to yourself. So I would be concerned if I were Addie too. You know what? We get a twist of fate when Gina is actually broken up with by Chad. Yeah. Addie was right, Gina. She told you. You don't tell your friend you told them so. You like to let them go through their own thing, and you just try to be there to support them. Like, I feel like that's the way you have a true friendship. And Addie kept her boundary with her. Like, she allowed Gina to learn on her own that this guy was not right for her and supported her up until that point. And that's really important. Like, I don't care if you're in middle school, elementary school, it's important to not step into somebody's life and tell them what to do or how to go about it, but sit there and actually like let them go through the mistakes if it's a mistake at all. Like, trust somebody can have control over their own life. So yeah, Gina locks herself in the bathroom and we get a surprising twist of fate where suddenly she doesn't want to be seen by anybody. So her and Addie are kind of on the same page. We see exactly where they were from the cold open. They are trapped at Randy Klein's party in this bathroom, and they've yet to see anybody at the party. Everybody's here too. The nerds dating. We get Jake Bahari and his girlfriend, and they break up. Yeah, isn't that insane? So many breakups are happening at this party. Not only is it Gina and Chad, but then it's Jake and his girlfriend. And the twisted thing is that Addie doesn't know that Jake and his girlfriend broke up. Jake actually gets advice from Zach once he goes through the breakup, and he's essentially like, I think I like Addie. And at first I was like, okay, dude, you can't just break up with your girlfriend because you like another girl. Like, that's not cool. I think it was like very clear since he found those 66 songs from her that he actually did start thinking about her that way, started to doubt his own relationship, and he kind of hints at that. And I feel like it is fair. Like, he's not really betraying her. He quote unquote said that he left a relationship because he felt like he was thinking about somebody else too much, which is a genuine thing to do. So Jake so far is not too much of a jerk, but he is out of a relationship, and we as the audience know that, but Addie doesn't. And that's when things get really twisted, because at the bar mitzvah, Randy Klein asks Addie to dance. Of course, Addie knows that Jake is probably in a relationship, so why in the world would she not say yes? And Randy Klein is kind of a nice kid, like, it's his party. He seems to have a lot going for him. He's pretty hyped up a lot of the time. So, like, even though we don't know who he is, we definitely have the vibe that he is a popular kid, that his opinion matters. So it is a big deal when he asks Addie to dance. It kind of boosts her confidence, because having just gotten these braces, being more insecure, like, a lot of stuff is not working out for her. So the fact that, like, he notices her is really thoughtful. And then we see her and him dance for the rest of the episode, and we as the audience are very stressed because we know that Jake just left his relationship in hopes for being with Addie. And suddenly we got this big teenage drama that's way better than Zoe 101. Yeah, I said it. Quote me on it. Gina gets asked by another guy to dance, and I guess that just solves her problems. And the whole season ends on this note. And I'm floored. I think the season did such a good job at setting up all these complicated relationships and ended the season with the relationships being even more complicated. Like, they do a good job at Degrassi level of drama, but kind of bring it back to be grounded in a way middle school would be. Addie is such an admirable main character. Not only does she express her emotions through song, but she's like really caring about her friends care about her. There's a lot of like really important things going on in her life that you really want to vouch for. I didn't get to talk a lot about Ben's relationship. Her older brother spends a lot of time in the B plots fawning over this girl that moved to California, and they're slowly drifting apart throughout the show. And it's kind of sweet because it definitely gives the vibe of like long distance relationship, and you actually feel bad for Ben because he is somebody who genuinely tries in life and he's succeeded a lot. So the fact that like he's holding on pretty loyally to this girl that he doesn't know what's going on with.
I eat ice cream for dinner. Tara, I miss you.
Right when he decides that he's like ready to break up with her, that things might not be working out, I don't know, you kind of feel really bad for him. Especially since she breaks up with him first. Like, it's like right when he decides he's gonna break up with her, she beats him to it. She gives him back her sweatshirt and is like, sorry, this is just not gonna work out.
Your only son's broken heart is for the best? How could she break up with me? I was gonna break up with her. Tara, it's me. I can't accept your breakup package. I'm sending it back to you.
And even though he like kind of moves on pretty quickly, has crushes on other girls by the end of the first season, it did kind of put us in a warm mind toward him, because he clearly is a good character that makes good decisions. And even though he sometimes can be like teasing. It's not like he's Derek from Life with Derek. Like, he is a genuine older brother. So Addie's relationship with her older brother, her relationship with Gina, her relationship with Zach, everything is tested constantly, and she always seems to come out on top of doing the right thing. Sometimes she might stumble and make a decision based on reputation or something for Jake, but for the most part, like, her heart is in the right spot. I feel like a lot of the plots are like her against middle school, like, as opposed to Ned's Declassified that like doubles down on being only about middle school. Unfabulous adds an extra layer with her home life and everything she specifically is going through. It feels like a more in-depth and carefully written version of Ned's Declassified. And I would definitely advise you guys to take a look at this show one more time, because it is definitely a hidden gem. Like, the things they talk about are really topical, worth remembering, and they hit us in the heart with Addie's 66th Day song. So, I don't know, guys. I would check it out if I were you. I'm really happy to have jumped back into this one, seeing the picture, the party, the secret, the book club, the pal, the pink guitar, the reputation, the list of kissed. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Johnny 2000, and if there's anything I missed or anything you really liked about this series that you think I haven't covered, please let me know down in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. I really appreciate you guys and your efforts toward this channel. Thank you so much for letting me post as much as I want. I swear I don't mean to oversaturate this YouTube, but I'm just having so much fun making as many videos as fast as possible, and it seems like I'm rushing, but really, I just like spending 6 hours a day talking about teen shows. I'm sorry, I just have a lot to reflect on and a lot to learn going into my own adulthood that I feel like it's really enriching my life to take these lessons that Addie Singer had learned. It's important for me, and it's beneficial to my quality of life, so it's just fun to do. So thank you guys so much for your support, and I will see you guys next time.